All right. This is The Earth and Its Peoples by Richard Bulliet. Chapter 20, Between Europe and China, 1500 to 1750. Section 5, The Maritime Worlds of Islam, 1500 to 1750. So when we're referencing the maritime world, we're mostly referring to those nations that rely very heavily on, sea travel. As compared to what we talked about in this chapter already, the Ottomans, the Safavids, and the Mughals, these are mostly land-based empires. Not a lot of commerce or priority given to overseas expansion. Now, some of them had navies and did engage in overseas trade, but not to the extent that really other nations did. We can mostly say that the Ottomans, Safavids, and Mughals were really not part of the maritime world. Whereas the Portuguese, the Dutch, the English, and the French were part of the maritime world. They spent a considerable amount of resources in developing and fostering the development of overseas expansion, overseas trade, establishing trading posts all around the world, whereas the Ottomans, Safavids, and Mughals were relatively insular. With that being said, despite the fact that the Portuguese, Dutch, English, and French, all these nations are Christian, most of the maritime world remained Islam, or an Islamic religion or faith, and this was especially true around the Indian Ocean. We might say that most merchants were Muslim. And the Muslims in Southeast Asia, so if we go to our map here, generally speaking, Southeast Asia is a territory, and maybe we'll mark it a little bit more. Generally speaking, kind of outlined, you can't really see that. Sort of outlined in this area here. That's kind of where we mean by Southeast Asia. Yeah, you guys can see that pretty well. The history of Islam in Southeast Asia dates back a very long time. In fact, historians don't generally agree exactly when Islam was established in Southeast Asia, but anywhere from the year 700 to the 1300s was when Muslim merchants began arriving in these particular areas and found converts, especially in the port cities. So Islam spread to that area by merchant activity. And this activity, again, dated back for a very long time, whereas port cities were transformed into be predominantly Islamic. There were certain segments of the population outside of the cities which retained a traditional religious identity, right? And some examples of the clashes between those powers that were interested in the maritime world, we might also add Spain to this, included Spain's effort to colonize the Philippines. And so the Spanish established a presence in the Philippines very early on. The Spanish or the Philippines are what's here in the red, so maybe we'll use red here. All right, so these are the Philippines. And the Spanish established a presence here, it looks like in 1570, as a way to transport silver into China. So recall that the Spanish discovered the New World, that initially the Spanish and Christopher Columbus had wanted trade goods from China. And so the Philippines served as a trading base, essentially. Silver would come this way from the Americas into the Philippines. It would then be transferred into China, which then could be exchanged for trade goods, and that would go back across the ocean that way. In there, the Spanish fought against a much more what we might call native kingdom, who were predominantly Islamic. The Moro Wars is sometimes what it's called. This is the war between Spain and Philippines. Let's see, is Philippines 1L or 2Ps? It looks like it's 1L and 2Ps. Who were again Muslim. And one way that you can remember that is that the word Moro actually derives from the Spanish word Moor, sometimes spelled with an E, which was a Muslim in Iberia / North Africa. These were the people that the Spanish had fought the Reconquista against for hundreds of years, so the Moro Wars. And the Spanish were successful in establishing a presence there. Other sultanates or other kingdoms that were established by predominantly Muslim rulers and the bureaucratic class, the Brunei and the Aceh sultanates, located in Southeast Asia in these areas respectively. So Aceh would have been in this particular area, right, controlling that. Brunei kind of up in this northern region here. And these were states, again, with tax collecting systems, with armies, kingdoms in every sort of sense of the word. However, though, starting approximately maybe the 1300s to about the 1500s, in Southeast Asia in particular, a lot more of the culture, a lot more of the politics was being shaped by pilgrims. And what we mean by pilgrims is not, the pilgrims that celebrated Thanksgiving in the New World or the Americas. We mean pilgrims to Mecca. As part of the 5 pillars of Islam, what every good practicing Muslim should do at least once in their lifetime is visit the holy city of Mecca, or at least make an effort to visit the holy city of Mecca. In this case, especially in the 1300s and 1500s, when travel became a lot easier, pilgrims from Mecca to Southeast Asia more or less dictated and shaped culture and politics. One good example is that in Southeast Asia, really from the 700s to the 1300s, even though these were predominantly Islamic kingdoms, some of them had women rulers. That wasn't the case in the Middle East. When pilgrims arrived from Mecca, bringing back the Islamic culture from the Middle East into Southeast Asia, it was less common to see women rulers after that period. So kind of like a cultural connectivity, you might say, especially in this particular period. Southeast Asia is not the only area that has a strong Islamic presence. Also the Swahili Coast, the territory in which we are referring to in the Swahili Coast is East Africa. So we're going to be looking at this area right here, essentially, off the eastern coast of Africa. And in that area, notable city-states included Kilwa and Mombasa. We might call these the maybe most important city-states. Unlike the empire of or kingdom of Brunei, unlike Spanish control in the Philippines, what existed on the Swahili coast was not sprawling empires, but city-states in which commerce was very, very much active. Looks like Kilwa. I'll get another color so we can see it. Kilwa, located right here. Mombasa, located right there. These city-states were very active in trading. They were part of the Indian Ocean trade. One of the commodities traded included slaves. Now, we sometimes refer to this as the Islamic slave trade. And to compare it to its counterpart, the Atlantic slave trade, there are some similarities, but there are also some differences. The biggest difference is the scale. So, for example, it's estimated that perhaps 2 million people were transported in the Islamic slave trade or the Arabic slave trade, whereas in the Atlantic slave trade, it was closer to 8 million. Another key difference was that most in the Indian Ocean that were traded as slaves were usually servants or concubines, whereas in the Atlantic slave trade, they were usually manual laborers working on sugar plantations. So that's a difference there. Portugal, very early on, from the 1400s to the 1500s, established a number of bases here. In fact, the Portuguese attacked a number of Swahili city-states. Remember, this was in part for the economics, but this also played into a much longer history of crusades, holy wars against the Middle East, Portugal being a predominantly Catholic nation. Oman, a Muslim kingdom, fought with the Portuguese, right? So the Portuguese and the Omanis fought one another. The city-states of Muscat and Mombasa were captured by the Omanis. So this was a back and forth war that went between regional powers in this particular area. Swahili, we mentioned this previously, but this is a language. Anything on this eastern coast, it is a mix of Arabic and African languages, essentially. Really kind of showing you the blending of cultures that occurred on the eastern coast of Africa. You have a continent in sub-Saharan Africa, and then you have these merchants who are arriving on the shores, bringing an Arabic language, an Arabic script, a religion in Islam. And even though most of the ruling classes in these Swahili city-states were Islamic, and the merchants were Muslim, and maybe some of the members of high society were, most of the population in Africa in this region retained an indigenous religious identity. We might also add that North Africa was also a place that we could say is part of this world. In North Africa, of course, this was conflict between Spain, maybe Italy at sometimes, Portugal, and Muslim kingdoms. All right, so it's not on this map. You can't see Northern Africa, but essentially it's this area right here if it were to continue to extend. And the Mediterranean was also a contested area. We could see Oman right here, those who fought against the Portuguese control in that region. Now, as far as European powers go, most of them established a limited presence in the Indian Ocean. Sometimes we refer to these European powers as trading post empires, that they really didn't subject large swaths of the population to European rule, but rather controlled key export cities and maintained control on the open waters. So if we go back to our map here, we see all sorts of different powers, right? So we have the orange marking the British, the purple marking the Dutch, the teal marking the French, the green being Portugal, and the pink being Spanish. And you can just kind of see a little bit all the ways in which these powers are just kind of, they're just littered throughout here, right? So there's a European trading city, there's a European, there's one, trading city, trading city, trading city. And again, they're just kind of all spread around, China even. And, this was a way to maintain key ports and maintain these trading post empires. There are two exceptions, though. And the two exceptions of European powers exerting control over large areas of land include the Spanish in the Philippines, right? The Spanish had much more than a simple trading post city. And in the purple here, the Dutch control of what is today modern-day Indonesia. And so in some of these areas, the Dutch ended up exerting much more control over the people in these territories than just simply a trading post, especially the Dutch island here of Java. The Portuguese also controlled the island of Timor. You can see a little bit of Portugal control in Southeast Asia here, but the two great exceptions, the Spanish in the Philippines and the Dutch in modern-day Indonesia. So the Dutch, they came to Southeast Asia primarily by, so first of all, this term East Indies just refers to the islands. Oops. No. Islands in Southeast Asia. We're talking about Indonesia mostly, but not exclusively. And the Dutch East India Company, of course, which was a joint stock company, which is interested to make profit, was successful in really capturing Portugal's possessions. Remember, during the Age of Exploration, Portugal was the first country really out of the gates, established a presence in Brazil, in the Caribbean, in the Indian Ocean. a lot of Portugal's possessions fell to the Dutch later on, which assumed control. Portugal didn't lose everything, but they lost a lot, including much of the East Indies. Probably the most important strategic point in the East Indies is Malacca. That is a city. It's also referred to as the Straits of Malacca. And it's a very important trading city. And I'll show you why. Geographically, it is in a very beneficial area. So when we look at a map of Southeast Asia, let's go ahead and try and use a color we haven't used yet. I don't know if that's going to be possible. Let's try, we'll do blue, right? So Malacca is the city located right here, right? That's where it is geographically. And the reason why it's important is because if you want to trade from China, let's say, I think this is Guangzhou, or from Japan, or from Korea, and you want to get to India, or the Arab world, or Africa, the shortest way is by sailing up this little piece of land right here. So any commerce that goes from this side of the world to this side of the world passes through the Straits of Malacca. And anytime that happens, if you are, worth anything business-wise, you're going to charge taxes on people there. And so this was a very valuable and strategic point that the Dutch gained control over. Otherwise, you could go and sail, through the islands another way, but that would have taken a lot more time to go all the way around. So this was a good way for the Dutch to exercise important control there. But like I said before, the Dutch made inroads into Southeast Asia and the East Indies there. Batavia, that is the Dutch capital in the East Indies. And the Dutch began to grow and maybe not grow, but began to harvest coffee and lumber as cash crops for export. Again, in this area, we want to emphasize the land aspect of it, the fact that the Dutch are taking over land, territory, and people and utilizing them to make money, as opposed to a lot of the other trading world in the Indian Ocean, where it's more about just controlling specific cities.